today, our guest is a person who has experience in the IT industry, particularly as a software developer, and is now a CEO and founder of an IT and software company based in Cebu. Please welcome Charles Yu. Hi, Charles. How are you?
Hi, Earl. I'm good. How are you, Earl? Thank you for
I'm good.
having me here, Earl.
Thank you for accepting this invite. And I'm doing good, so I'm glad to actually see you. Now, first things first, looking to where you are now, was it your dream to be able to pursue to this kind of career?
Actually, I can say, Earl, I think no. Looking back, my childhood, if I can recall correctly, my dream job was supposedly an architect. Then my second option was culinary. So
Okay,
it's kind of
far.
different from where I am right now.
Yeah.
Although probably part of me knew that I had to be in business at some point because it's something that I came to realize during the early part of my career. It's something that I want to go into, but it's not necessarily into the IT industry.
I'm curious about it. How did you make that shift from being an architect and a culinary, and then you just suddenly thought, okay, IT, this is what I'm going to take?
So I'll give a short story about probably high school time. I
Mhm.
was choosing for a course. No, I think that's the time in our lives where we try to choose our career. I was actually considering any course that has math in it because I enjoyed math. I didn't even consider right then and there computer science because if I recall properly, I wasn't even very active in our computer project. I can recall we had a project where we had to make a website. I wasn't the one coding it, probably the one presenting or helping out with the content. But I decided to choose a course that has a lot of math in it because I enjoy math and probably I consider it as probably one of my strengths. I decided to choose at first computer engineering and later on through family or some talking with other people, I realized that the computer engineering it's more of hardware as opposed
Mhm.
to computer science, which dwells more with software.
Mhm.
And if I try to compare hardware and software, I can see myself more in the software side. So that's why I decided to take on computer science.
You could have taken a course like, let's say, BS Math, but I think your love for software has stood above all, which is why you took computer science.
Yeah. And I think above from choosing a course also, Earl, that has math, it's probably looking also a course that has, they say, a good future during that
Okay.
time. No, and
Okay.
probably seeing IT that it's evolving. Even up until now, I can say na taking a course siguro in IT or in computer science is quite promising.
Mhm.
So I think that's also one of my big considerations why I chose computer science during that time.
And I think your decision is something that you haven't regretted because I
Mhm.
would say it's a fulfilling career. I think it has led you to heights that I personally wouldn't imagine that you were able to achieve in this lifetime.
Yeah, I agree, Earl. I didn't regret naman no, taking computer science. Looking also back, once I was able to finish computer science, I worked with the industry for about 2 years and 2 months, Earl. And also during the early part of my career, I realized I can't be in a 9 to 5 job. To share lang, I was in a corporate setting. So the first 2 years of my career, Japanese tech
Mhm.
company. I was in a cubicle, no, so I
Mhm.
can't see myself being stuck in a cubicle for 9 to 5. And I think it's during that time I realized I had to be in business. I was looking other options also in business, but since again I was a graduate of computer science, I also didn't want to waste that knowledge that I had in school. So that's why that's also the time I decided to start my own tech company, given the things that I've learned sa previous na company.
I'm sure the inception of your decision to join the business comes with a risk and also leaving your comfort zone. How did you feel at that time?
Probably it's making sure that before you would end your 9 to 5, you have to make sure na your business or probably your sideline during that time already makes sense. No, it can
Mhm.
already support you. But at the end of the day, it brings to boil. No, being in business is really risky. So there are times na everything's good. There are also challenging times when I think that's the beauty also of business. One thing siguro that attracted me to it is the exertion of effort because if in my experience I was in a 9 to 5, if I exert much effort versus if I don't exert much effort, the reward is kind of the same, no? But for some, it's different naman. So for me, I want to be in a place where I will be challenged. The more I exert, probably the more I will be rewarded, or the more things would work out no, for my benefit.
I think it was at that time that startups really are a thing, and I think it's
Yes.
really pioneering, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So take us into that journey of taking into that route. Being a startup, I know it's challenging in a sense that you don't start yet with a facility just straight up, because I know you will only start with a few things and all. How did you face that first day on?
I think that's the most challenging part also, starting everything from the ground up. But I think what most important is having the right people with you. No,
Right.
so actually, looking back also, Hatchit Solution started after the third group of people that I tried to assemble. I was already working before at the Japanese firm. I tried to form a group. The first time we had an idea, we tried building it. It didn't work. Probably the group dispersed. Some of the members are still with me, and I formed another group. Again, we had the same idea, tried to pursue it, and fell short probably. And now the third group. The third group composed before of the core members of what we call the core Hatchet group. From there, I think we started doing things right because probably of the things that I've learned from the previous groups. From there, we started Hatchet. We started getting clients. Although some of the core members are already not with us right now, but I still do talk with them once in a while for any advices, any consultation. So I think from that third group, also si Matthew, who is my COO right now, is actually my cousin. From there, we're able to build Hatchet to where we are now today.
It's interesting that you invited your cousin. Does he have any experience with IT or entrepreneurship or any course that why he joined Hatchet?
Si Matthew, he took computer science as well, and
Oh,
we were office mates in the Japanese firm. Although we weren't in the same department the whole time, we kept talking during that time, and we had already plans of coming up. I invited him because I believe na he can help. Na he has his own strength also.
that's nice. And I think it's rare to find relatives who can trust you. And I think Matt is a very trusted person of yours.
Very much, Ern. I really like our working relationship because there are some times, Manggod, na being a CEO and COO, you have to work well very much together. I think we've reached to a point where we don't speak as much, but he's doing the things that I'm not doing. I'm also doing the things that he's not doing. And once we speak, both of the things that we're doing complement each other. I think that's also one of our strengths in the company as management, being able to work harmoniously with each other. I think that's one of the things also that makes Hatchet special.
I like that kind of connection. I'm sure it must have been so draining for you that it had to take a third group to be able to get the right balance of your vision and these people believing in your vision.
Yes, I think that's very important. Even up until now, Earl, it's not necessarily people who would be like your partners, but more for people within the company, especially for, let's say, when we have certain seasons where we do hire. I still do join in every interview because I think it's really key to have that filter within the company. Nga everyone who comes in matches the culture that we're trying to share to everyone. More importantly than a person's skill, because as they
Yes.
say, skill can be taught, but ethic or culture can't.
Let's go through the shared culture that Hatchet wants. What is your vision of the company culture?
For our internal culture, we believe that communication is very important. No? So to share lang my experience, I'd worked for a corporate setting for 2 years,
Mhm.
transferred to a startup na US company for 2 months. So at least I had experience of both worlds, corporate and startup. Both of my experience, I didn't feel much fulfillment because in a sense that I was building something, I was coding, but at the end of the day, I'm just gonna push it to the repo and that's the end. Probably the
Mhm.
client would say it's passed and it's done. No, so one thing I
Mhm.
made sure here in Hatchet is there's fulfillment for everyone. Even as early as a software engineer one, we will bring him in our meetings. We will let him meet our clients. Para he or she will feel nga whatever he or she is working with, there's an impact. Seeing the impact of one's work, let's say an inventory system no, for a certain company, being able to see na your system is able to contribute to that person's business. He is able to better track the ins and outs probably of the inventory. At the end of the month, there's no more miscalculation or lost inventory. Being able to see your impact towards the society is very crucial, no, with us here.
Right.
We also like to keep our company flat. So we don't believe
Okay.
in a very hierarchical approach na I'm very difficult to
To deal
reach.
with.
No? So as much as possible, I want to be very involved pa at the current
Yes.
stage of Hatchit. At the same time, more of a barkada
Yes.
culture na we
Yes.
make fun of each other. We have like an initiative internally we call health activities. So every
Okay.
month we do marathons together with the company, we do outings, we eat out together. So it's that kind of culture, where we, as much as possible, would want to support each of our members individually to share. One of our members, si Erica, is into running, taking
Mm-hmm.
marathons, and we supported her. We sponsored her suit, her gear for an Ironman in Bohol. I think that it transcends more than works, also encouraging everyone with whatever hobbies or things they want to do outside of work, and we support that. So it's that kind of culture that we're trying to push every day.
The way I see it is you are very intentional in giving the best, even reaching out beyond what you can as a CEO to try to fit into the needs of your resource because the resource is really a great asset. So, how much of it is giving the specific need of your resource or your people and also setting the boundaries?
I think that's also one of my job, or aside from being a CEO, I'm also the CFO, of Hatchet.
Yes.
So it's part of the budgeting that we have to do yearly. We are grateful, that we are in a place we can afford to support our teammates to that level. There's no fixed percentage that I set. Basta as much as possible, we do prioritize our teammates first because we believe na if everyone is well basically treated within the company, the more also na contribution that one person is able to give to the company. So it's just a matter of supporting basically each other because it's not also every day said, let's say you're the top management of the company. It doesn't mean you have to be the one to always inspire everyone. Us seeing also our teammates, even interns working hard, it also inspires us to do more for the company. So it's like a give and take relationship.
I would say you're a very hands-on CEO.
As much as possible, yeah. So
Yeah.
majority of my time Earl is spent with Hatchet.
How well do you balance Hatch It with your personal life?
I try to balance it as much as possible. So aside from Hatchet, I do have other businesses, Paman Earl, but
Oh.
these types of businesses do not require as much time as
Mhm.
Hatchet requires. That's why I can say a majority of my time is with Hatchet. But balancing, it's sometimes also a challenge because they say if you want to, let's say, achieve success in your company, you can't have balance. That's, I
Mm.
think, a quote I saw online. I think it can be done. It's just a matter of probably using the right leverage, creating the right systems around you, and having the correct people also to help you achieve your goals. Achieving balance also in personal life, I can say I do try as much as possible also, especially when there are days na it's not that busy. So at least I can spend more time with the family, especially weekends. Pero there are also days na I really do need to have overtime to catch up on something. So it's a matter of trying to find the balance every day.
How are you finding your balance each day?
It's okay naman, Earl. There are days na it's more busy. There are also days na it's not so. More siguro for weekends, I do a lot with time, especially since I also have a 1-year-old son. So
Oh,
all the more that I need to allot more time for him because he keeps on looking for me sometimes.
and I can imagine it's tough since you are a young father and Hatchet has become your heart and your 1-year-old also is your heart. How do you manage that?
I think it's about having structure lang siguro, Earl, every day. My wife, Phoebe, is also very hands-on with our son. So as much as possible, if I do have time, that's usually after work hours na I do spend time with them.
Let's talk about the kind of service that Hatchet is rendering.
So currently, we actually have three units, departments of Hatchit. So first is Hatchet Studio, or what we call HS. It's a unit where we make customized solutions for clients. It
Mhm.
can be inventory systems, accounting, whatever, customized to the processes of that certain company. The second unit is what we call Hitnovations Lab, or HL. It's also the unit that is in charge of building mga products of Hatchit, some of which are mga warehouse management systems. We have a headless commerce product. We also have a payroll system. The third one is quite new. It's what we call Hatchet Consultancy Group, or HCG. It's the unit that's in charge of more for the consulting side, because we also have some clients who not only need tech solutions, but they need us to help them come up with the right tech solution. And I think that entails consultancy. So for that
Mhm.
unit, we have industrial engineers, no, so IEs, no, to help us out with that.
Wow, I just love your offerings because I feel like Hatchet is going to be one of the catalysts in terms of how we integrate business and IT as a whole here in Cebu, and has been still ongoing for 8 years. And I would say that's a very impressive run. Can you give us some of the most memorable challenges the company has faced and what lessons that were learned along the way?
I think that's quite a handful, Earl. For the challenges, probably the most challenging is starting it, being able to put your name out there, gaining the trust of possible clients since
Right,
you're starting it from scratch. Another would probably gaining experience as well in creating solutions. We
right.
do have to learn certain industries as well. For example, we have a client who is into the resort industry. Part of our challenge is learning also how a resort operates. So in order for us to automate it. So another would be, because of course we can prevent, we choose our clients. We
Right.
do also had experience of challenging clients to deal with,
Mhm.
probably more for clients that don't appreciate much of tech. That's why I
Mhm.
also would like to commend you, Earl, of having this podcast, because it's also quite a challenge sometimes, especially for the local market. Being able to see tech as an investment rather
Right,
than an expense. Tech is not just an expense, it's basically an investment for your company. And I
right.
think if you look probably into the future, companies who have integrated tech into their operations would be more likely to succeed as opposed to those who nang mano-mano pa, no, in Bisaya.
Right.
Another would also be probably some clients who think tech is cheap. No, so we also had experience of those. They try to get as much specs out of the price, which I think is very difficult to deal with. No? Probably also the pandemic time, no?
Right.
Since we're all locked down, it's quite difficult to meet clients at that time because everything is online. Though we were also able to capitalize on building products or systems that allow businesses to transact online. So during the pandemic time, to share lang early, we created an e-commerce enabler allowing businesses to set up a web store in just 2 weeks, one week, for them to sell their products online. And we were able to come up with a lot of success stories also that time. No, we had a customer that's into appliances. Na
Mhm.
all of his stores closed down, no? All the physical stores. He had a previous old website, but it's not functioning really well. And through the platform that we created, we call Orderly, he was able to sell a lot of products even during the pandemic. It's one of the things nga we're proud of because something that we did gave an impact to someone person's life. No, it's all about the impact. Another also was partnering with Dole that time.
Mhm.
So si Dole usually has mga job fairs pa na, no? And I believe during that time, there were a lot of people who lost their jobs. We were able to partner with Dole to create an online job fair basically. And it's quite fulfilling also no nga the system was able to receive so many applications. So, and it linked with all the employers also, and a lot of people got hired through that application that we built. Although it was quite challenging at that time, we were able naman to give impact to others, to help also other industries through tech. No, and I think that makes man our job worthwhile. That's why our success line early. Success is not just delivering a feature, but solving a client's problem. So we
Right.
focus more on the practicality side of tech because there's really a tendency being in tech to focus so much on the feature. Let's say AI. So, di ba, AI is a hot thing right now. So,
Right.
it's all about making AI, how you can create a certain model. But at the end of the day, is there someone using or benefiting big time no, for that AI that you've built? So that's what Hatchit is focusing on, investing our time on building tech that really helps or impacts other businesses, probably solves problems of other nga mga businesses. I think those are some more challenging times siguro, Earl. Day-to-day naman is quite a challenge. It's a mixture of challenges and wins, and we'd like to focus on wins rather than
Of course.
challenges. And with all the challenges, we make sure nga we're able to learn a thing or two naman. We usually share with our teammates no nga we have to welcome challenges. Nga pressure is a privilege. Pressure defines who you can become. If you are in your comfort zone, you won't learn anything. So if you expose yourself to challenges, to difficult things, although you fail at times, but failure enables you to learn more. No, and I think
Right.
that one of the things siguro that we learn, we should not be afraid to fail. Some of the lessons, first and foremost, siguro early is of course recognizing that God is the source of everything. That's one of the
Mm,
foundations we have in Hatchet. Nga, all our skills, our abilities, we acknowledge nga si God is the source of everything. It's usually during a startup, mga the earlier times, it's managing the finances that's challenging. It's a testament for this because during the earlier parts of Hatchet, especially for the months nga ang runway is quite challenging. No? So there's always projects coming in. That's what I recognize good without me much doing anything. I acknowledge good nga. It's really not at our efforts we became to be. No, it's also God's blessing. There were months nga we didn't do anything. The projects that we're handling are supposed to end. But naaray mo kalit-abot nga project. No? And I think it's a blessing and it made me realize even more nga God is the source of everything. Another siguro is ability to act quickly, Earl, is very important for me. I think I've seen it online. One of the keys to success is being able to act on something quickly. If you have something you think you should be doing, but you delay, you try to think about it, then probably you got busy, you have other things to do, and not being able to act on it right then and there. I think the concept of agile, nga, you try to test it out, to make it, to push it out, to get feedback. Then from whatever feedback you're able to get, you're able to persevere or to pivot. I think that is very crucial. It's one of the things also that we learn recently because we can never know the market unless we really expose ourselves na into it. So I think those are some of the things, Earl, that we've learned, but I'm sure there are a lot pa. Too many to mention, siguro, Earl.
yeah, of course. And I'm sure there is still more to go. What would you advise for those who are aspiring to take the entrepreneurial that intends to render IT services?
Probably finding the right people. That's the most important thing. Having the right structure to start it. Having also the right mindset or ethic
Mhm.
in order for you to be persevering. And lastly would probably be the skills. You have to learn the skills in order to start a company. So looking back so earlier parts of Hatchet, I think more siguro for me and Matthew, we were doing most of the things ourselves. We were meeting clients, we were the one designing, we were the one coding, we were the one testing, we're the one presenting.
Yes.
So we were
Yes.
able to reach that time. Being able to do those, to sacrifice, basically do everything by yourself and learn the lessons that you need to learn in order for you to propel forward. I think that's very crucial, and I think it requires another type of mindset to sustain doing things like that. If I recall, before we had a stage na most of the things we do, the next part is we had few teammates pa lang. Around three ra siguro, two. We reached siguro around mga 5, 10, and right now we're close to 30. At some point, we didn't have project managers. There was a time, I can recall yun nga, our projects were split between us ni Mats. Like I was handling 7 projects and he was handling 6 projects.
Oh
So
my.
we were managing those kinds of stuffs before. And I think it required us to have that experience in order to learn the things that we need to learn in order to train naman our people that we have right now. So it takes a lot of perseverance.
Very well said, Charles. I'm sure that advice is very helpful. So thank you for that. So to wrap up, what wakes you up early in the morning?
Probably exercise early. I
Oh,
go to the gym early in the morning. I think it became a habit na of me. But I don't do it naman every day. Probably mga 4 times a week. And I think it's good lang, no? Because especially we're aging na ba? No, and I
yes,
think exercise is important. It also brightens my mood for
of
days nga
course.
I do work out. I feel nga I can think more. If there's a long time nga I can't go to the gym, I feel clouded. Or there's a
Yeah.
ball of energy nga I need to release.
Actually, in the IT industry, there needs to be some balance of movement in particular because
Yeah.
the IT industry is very prone to a sedentary lifestyle. And how much more of you as a CEO, movement needs to be really highly encouraged.
I heard it somewhere earlier nga exercising daw in the morning is very good, no, because I think that's the most difficult part of the day. And once you're done with the most difficult part of the day, you'll feel nga anything that comes to you is easy na. Getting up early in the morning, carrying weights is the most difficult thing daw. So I'd like to
Yes.
have that approach. I agree also, Earl, no, being in the IT industry, of course, we work from our desks, although there are standing desks na right now, but I
Yes.
think it's really important to have wellness, no, or
Yes.
exercise once in a while. That's why that's also one of the things that we're pushing also in Hatchit. No, we have a unit also, but it's not more for external, internal na unit. We call it Hatchit Health. So Hatchit Health is in charge of not only the mental health of teammates, but
Mm,
also physical health. So recently we also had we call like a health or a community con. We introduced some of the things that we're introducing for our health in Hatchet, and we came up with clubs within Hatchet. So there are like recreational clubs for badminton. Others would like to join the running club. Others would like to give back club.
mm,
Others would also like to have basketball club. So at
mm.
least it encourages everyone also to stay fit, to move around, to not just be stuck on the table. Si Hatchet is really supportive of sports and wellness.
I love that.
Aside from it, siguro is being excited for what the day is able to offer. Every day is also different. There are days nga home lang, no? So work from home. There are also days nga it's fully packed with meetings. There are also days nga, I don't know, mas chill, no? So
Mhm.
I think being excited lang of what the day brings.
Very well said, Charles. Thank you so much for your time. And I wish the best for Hatch It and may you continue to gain more clients. And I wish that Hatch It will be a lucrative business.
Thank you, Earl. Thank you for having me, Earl. It's a pleasure also to have this interview, to share also what we've learned along the way. And thank you for what you're doing also, Earl, educating your audience about tech, because I think we need more of that, especially in Cebu.
Yes, that's one of my missions in one of my talks. So I hope that this will bring inspiration for those who decide to take into the tech industry. Thank you again, Charles.
Okay, thanks, Earl.